I do want to bring in another voice to this conversation as well. We're also joined by Eric Mandel, founder and director of the Middle East Political Information Network, also senior editor for security at the Jerusalem Report. Eric, great to have you with us on I-24 News today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Well, Iran is right now accusing the United States of violating the ceasefire for these strikes on Monday in the southern part of the country. The United States said these were defensive actions against boats trying to lay mines, as well as missile launch sites. But Eric, these targets were there. Why strike now as these negotiations are already barely hanging on by a thread?
So I think we need to look at this as part of the Persian kabuki dance. I believe this is all part of a well-coordinated Iranian strategy. What the strategy is, it demanded maximum U.S. concessions. Then they would backtrack once they had that leverage, except sending out enriched uranium. I've been saying this for a few months, and reopening the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for sanctions relief, asset relief, Lebanese ceasefire permanent, and a permanent end to the U.S. blockade. What I'm worried about is not these defensive actions that are out there. I'm more worried about the memorandum of understanding that supposedly says that we're going to give asset relief before a nuclear deal is signed, and worse, nothing on ballistic missiles, proxies enrichment, or weaponization. Or I would quote the Wall Street Journal, quote, they said today, saving the regime now with economic bailout would be the real betrayal of U.S. interests, even more than the betrayal of the Iranian people. And we need to remember, they've changed the focus here to the enriched uranium, away from the whole enrichment and plutonium and weaponization. And the President Trump said, quote unquote, we will only accept the complete end of Iran's uranium enrichment. So these small actions are not things I think we should overly focus on. What I think America really does need to have is more patience, and I wouldn't end the blockade anytime soon.
Well, Trump says that he has all the time in the world to reach a deal, and he also says it's going to be a good deal if and when it does happen. But Eric, does America have a weak spot when it comes to these negotiations, and does Tehran know that weak spot when we're talking about these talks?
So I think the question, what we're asking is why we fail in these negotiations. America's negotiated with Iran for a long time. What are our Achilles heels? We believe negotiations are better during ceasefires. With the Persians or in the Middle East, they're better during active fighting. We believe it's better to avoid escalations, but that in the Middle East is looked upon as signs of weakness. We believe it's our impulse, our Western impulse, to offer concessions and expect reciprocity. Worse, probably the most important thing is we operate on a Western clock. The Iranian strategy is to outweigh us, and that could happen not just from the midterm elections, but it could be the 2.5 years until President Trump leaves, when there's a Democratic Republican president that won't want to re-engage. And I think we lack the ability to accept we're negotiating with master Persian negotiators. And I just came back from Congress, briefing Congress and state last week, and what really saddened me and frightened me was that you see that political victories in Congress in the United States have become more important than advancing American national security interests. And then there's the self-inflicted wound of President Trump, who's decided not to make a major speech to the American people explaining why we're there, what's success, what's failure, why we need more time. And finally, I think we're negotiating like we have lost. But in reality, we've never had more leverage than in the last 47 years. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and what we do need is more time. And I think the president is getting pressure to end this sooner before we really have the opportunity to make permanent changes. Remember, anything short of regime collapse followed by regime change, which one could hope for, is going to kick this can down the road, hopefully kick it down far enough if that's what is going to happen.
Eric Mandel, great to have you as always. Thank you for this analysis.